Airbus A330. Here's a riddle for wide-body lovers. What long-haul twin quietly became the Swiss Army knife of global airlines, survived multiple economic cycles, then reinvented itself with a new wing, new engines, and new cabin comfort, without losing the easygoing reliability crews swear by? Stick around to the end. I'll reveal the single design choice that, more than any other, explains why the A330 still prints money on routes where bigger jets stumble and smaller jets struggle. Overview. The Airbus A330 is one of aviation's most adaptable wide-bodies, originally launched to dominate medium to long-haul missions with efficiency and cabin comfort. The first generation, what crews often call the CEO family, includes the A330-200 and A330-300, plus the dedicated A330-200F freighter. Decades later, Airbus refreshed the platform into the Neo line, the A330-800 and A330-900, carrying a redesigned wing, new pylons, advanced flight deck updates, and next-gen engines. In airline terms, the CEO is the dependable workhorse. The NEO is the fuel-sipping upgrade that lets carriers keep A330 economics while nudging range and payload into new territory. The personality barely changed: calm cockpit, forgiving handling, and passenger-friendly cabins with wide seats in a 242 layout that frequent flyers still rave about. From a business lens, the A330's true genius isn't just specs. It's how those specs line up with real schedules: overnight transcons, transatlantic shuttles, leisure trunk routes, and high-utilization Asia hops that demand quick turns and predictable dispatch. Key features. If you've flown a cabin done right on this airframe, you know the vibe instantly. Tall sidewalls that don't feel claustrophobic, an aisle that doesn't punish a full beverage cart, and a 242 economy that avoids the dreaded middle seat in 9 across cabins. Premium cabins benefit too, because the cross-section supports true lie-flat beds without resorting to contortions that steal shoulder space. The A330 was also early to adopt robust ETOPS operations, opening city pairs that used to require extra engines or extra stops. And while the CEO's engine options gave airlines a strategic lever, GE CF680E1 and Pratt & Whitney PW4000 families, the Neo doubled down on quiet, efficient long-range service with a re-wing and new engine tech designed to slash fuel burn and cabin noise. Inside the flight deck, the system's philosophy favors intuitive scan patterns and workload management the crews describe as honest. The airplane tends to fly the way it looks, and that matters when you're hand-flying in weather or just trying to keep a red-eye smooth. Key specifications. Let's anchor the numbers so the story has teeth. The A330-300 stretches to roughly 63.7 meters in length, with a classic A330 wingspan around 60.3 meters. The slightly shorter A330-200 is about 58.8 meters, trading length for extra fuel and range. Typical certified seating caps vary by subtype and interior, but you'll see max capacities quoted north of 400 for the -300 and around 400 for the -900, while smart, premium-heavy layouts often live in the mid-200s to low 300s depending on airline strategy. On the power side, CEO models fly with either GE's CF680E1 family or Pratt & Whitney's PW4000 100-inch series, both known for long, low-drama service histories. The Neo line wears a larger, modernized wing with new high-lift devices and a longer span, paired to high-bypass turbofans engineered for lower fuel burn and noise. In simple terms, the CEO gives you durable range and payload for classic long hauls. The Neo sharpens the fuel and sound profile while pushing range into sweet spot missions that favor frequency and comfort over sheer capacity. Engines, range, and real-world performance. Ask any dispatcher what they want, and you'll get 3 words: predictability, payload, and fuel. The CEO's GE CF680E1 and Pratt & Whitney PW4100 families earned reputations for dependable thrust ratings in the mid-60s to low 70s, 1,000 pounds, solid time on wing, and mature maintenance ecosystems across North America. That means parts, shops, and know-how are everywhere an A330 might wander. Step to the Neo, and you get a quieter cabin and better block fuel, thanks to the re-wing and new tech engines that leverage lessons learned across modern wide bodies. On paper, you'll see headline ranges that comfortably cover transatlantic staples and many trans-Pacific and deep South America routes with reserves. In practice, the A330's calling card is how well it threads passenger comfort with cargo revenue in the belly, particularly on routes that punish smaller twins for lack of space or force bigger jets to fly half-empty. For airlines, that right-sized sweet spot has real margin attached to it. Cabin experience and why passengers notice. I always tell viewers, if you care about how you feel after 8 hours in the air, look at seat width and aisle logic, not just IFE screenshots. The A330's economy crosses the Atlantic day after day with seats that can actually hit 18 inches wide in many layouts, and a 2-4-2 that keeps couples happy and solo travelers sane. Premium cabins vary wildly by airline, no surprise, but the fuselage gives designers room to do lie-flats without the pinched shoulders or odd diagonals that plague narrower cross-sections. Noise is the second big win. Even on older airframes, cabin noise levels in cruise tend to be pleasantly low. On newer re-engined birds with modern interiors, the hush is the first thing nervous flyers notice when the wheels tuck up. Why airlines still love it. Airline planners are allergic to drama. The A330 wins because it's flexible, certifiably reliable, and just big enough for a shocking number of markets. Equipment swaps are less painful because many carriers operate both short and long-range subfleets with common training footprints, and the airframe's structure isn't exotic to maintain. Belly cargo is strong for the size, which matters for profitability on business-like days. And when passenger demand whipsaws, this jet can pivot into high-utilization schedules without wrecking maintenance planning. In other words, when the spreadsheet gets ugly, the A330 is often the last wide-body you park. Costs, pricing, and ownership reality. Let's talk money without the fluff. New build sticker prices aren't published in a meaningful way anymore, and real transaction prices live behind NDAs. What matters to owners is the total cost per block hour: fuel, crew, maintenance, landing, nav, and ownership. For a wide-body twin in this class, that combined figure lands deep into 5 digits per block hour before you start layering premium services. The CEO family keeps costs predictable with a mature supply chain and a huge installed base. The Neo squeezes fuel and noise, which shows up as savings on long, consistent missions and friendlier community noise profiles at night. On the revenue side, the A330's belly space is the underrated profit lever. Even when yields in the cabin soften, cargo keeps the spreadsheet honest. If you're analyzing a route network, pencil the A330 where demand is steady, premium mix is decent, and cargo has a fighting chance. Then watch how often the numbers beat the glamour jets. Comparisons that clarify the role. Think of the wide-body world as a spectrum. On one end, you've got ultra-long-range flagships that win headlines but need premium heavy loads to sing. On the other, you've got mid-market twins that sip fuel but can't carry enough bags or freight when demand spikes. The A330 sits in the middle, bigger than the typical long-range narrow-body and more accommodating than many mid-wide bodies, yet simpler and cheaper to live with than the ultra-long-range showpieces. If you've followed our coverage of business jets, it's a bit like choosing the jet with the cabin you can actually work and sleep in, not the brochure top-speed brag. I've flown enough routes on this airframe to say it plainly. A well-configured A330 doesn't just move people, it protects the schedule, and schedules are what pay the bills. Myths, misunderstandings, and lesser-known details. One myth that refuses to die is that the A330 is yesterday's tech, riding on nostalgia. The NEO program alone proves otherwise. New wing design, advanced engines, quieter cabins, and avionics updates that fold in contemporary airline data needs. Another misconception is that twins can't do the tough routes safely. Extended-range twin rules have matured for decades, and the A330 platform was in that conversation early, with engine families that racked up hours the way accountants like quietly. A detail I love: the way cabin architecture on many A330s tricks your eye into feeling wider than the numbers suggest. The sidewall and bin treatments avoid that squeezed tube feeling, especially in the first few rows of economy, where many designs get it wrong. Money talk. Accounting doesn't care about romance, so let's keep it real. The wide-body line items that move the needle are fuel burn, maintenance intervals, crew cost structures, and utilization. The CEO's mature engine and component ecosystem turns into favorable shop visits and parts availability. The NEO's fuel profile nibbles cost per seat, which compounds quickly on long stage lengths. Either way, the airplane's belly freight is the silent partner in your P&L. For charter, ACMI, or ad hoc operations, the A330's blend of range and cabin makes it a yes machine. Airports know it, caterers know it, and crews appreciate how seldom it bites. The final reveal. You waited for the one design choice that keeps the A330 relevant after all these years. Here it is, the cabin cross-section. That seemingly simple 242 economy-friendly width, and the premium layouts it enables, creates a passenger experience that punches above its weight while protecting seat width and aisle flow. Pair that with predictable performance and belly cargo, and you get an airplane that matches how people actually travel and how airlines actually make money. It's not the flashiest reason, but it's the reason you still see this jet everywhere important, doing the kind of work that keeps networks healthy. If this breakdown gave you a new way to see wide-body strategy, tap subscribe so YouTube brings you our next deep dive automatically. Tell me in the comments, would you take a slightly longer flight in a quieter 242 cabin or a shorter flight in a noisier 9 abreast? I'm featuring the best argument next episode. If you want members-only polls, early looks at fleet tours, and behind-the-scenes planning, hit join on our channel page. And if this video made your day, drop a super thanks. Your highlighted comment helps power the next investigation and gets a shout-out on screen. Don't let the session end here. Jump to our wide-body playlist to see how the A330 stacks up against its neighbors in the market. If you're curious about the quiet luxury idea, cue up our cabin deep dive after this. YouTube should be surfacing it on the right. I'll meet you there.